Alright, so I'm not getting super clean cuts on these, but it's shorter, and that's what I was going for. Welcome to my living room floor. So this week I'm taking a little bit of a break from crochet. I had an idea for a project, and this is something that I was going to make anyways, so I figured I might as well film it and share it with all of you, because I'm sure that the problem I'm trying to solve with this is a problem that a lot of other people have. So basically, I live in a small bungalow. We don't have a lot of space, and the space that we do have is taken up by furniture. And yeah, we don't have room for a Christmas tree. So previously we had a little 4-foot artificial tree that we would bring out and just kind of set up in a corner, just sort of like near the fireplace. And our little artificial tree got some water damage. It had been in the basement for storage, and last spring our basement flooded a little bit, and the base of it was just kind of a heavy styrofoam, and it soaked up a bunch of water, and yeah, we just couldn't really use it anymore. But this year I wanted to do something that would kind of act as a tree but not actually be a tree. So I was looking for solutions online, and I had found a few on Amazon that were almost like a tree-shaped ladder that you can hang ornaments off of, and some of them were fairly inexpensive, but I was a little concerned about quality. Some of the better quality looking ones were quite expensive. So I figured I could just rig up something myself from things that I already had, and save myself the money. So this project does use a couple of tools that you may or may not have. It is going to require some sort of saw, and I think we do have a hacksaw somewhere, but I happen to have this little set, and it's actually just a screwdriver set, but it comes with a couple of saw blades that just kind of fit into the top of the handle. So I'm just going to use that. And then you're also going to need a staple gun, and there probably are other ways that you could attach the pieces together. I just figured the staple gun would be strong enough to get the staples to actually go into bamboo and be strong enough to actually hold when there's a little bit of weight on it. You could also try using glue, probably wood glue or something like that would work just fine as well. We do happen to have a staple gun, so that's what I'm going to use, and hopefully it works out okay. I'm always a little bit nervous around tools, especially if there is the potential for accidents. So I'm going to try to be very careful with that, especially since I'm using bamboo, which is round. So it might be a little bit tricky to get everything lined up. So we'll see how that goes. But essentially all you need for materials for this is bamboo stakes, and I happen to just have a package of them in the basement, so I grabbed those. I don't need nearly this much, probably like 2 or 3 is enough. And then just a bit of hemp rope, and that's essentially it. So I am going to start by measuring out and cutting down my bamboo, and we'll see how this goes. I'm hoping it's fairly easy. The bamboo shouldn't be too hard to cut through. Okay, so I've just pulled out a few pieces that are relatively uniform in terms of color and thickness. So when I was planning out this project, I did a little mock-up just to kind of check sizing, and I think what I want to do is do pieces in 5-inch increments, so starting at the top with a 5-inch piece, and then 10, 15, 20, and then the bottom one will be 25. I'm going to be hanging this on a door, and the door is a little over 2 feet wide, so I want it to be slightly narrower than that. So I will maybe start with my widest piece and work my way down just to make sure that I've got enough with the pieces I have here. So I'm just using a little fabric ruler. If you have a standard measuring tape, that will work as well. And then I'm just going to use a Sharpie to mark my measurements. The first one is 25 inches. Next one is 20. Okay, so I can get the two largest pieces out of one stake. And then, sorry, my floor is very creaky. I'm sure you can probably hear that. So 15. 10 and 5. So I can actually get all of the pieces that I need out of just 2 stakes, so I don't even need this third one. So next step then is to cut these down. Okay, so I've got my saw. I put down some paper on the floor just so I'm not making my carpet any dirtier than it already is. And I'm just going to cut along the Sharpie lines that I made on my bamboo. This is not the most effective way to do this, I will admit. If you have actual woodworking skills, it would probably be helpful. So this is going to take me a minute, so bear with me. Alright, so I'm not getting super clean cuts on these, but it's shorter, and that's what I was going for. So first 2 pieces are done, so these are the 2 longest ones. So I'm just going to cut down my other piece so that I have all 5 of my pieces ready to go. And then I will jump back in and lead you through the next step. Okay, so I have all of my pieces cut down. I did manage to get a hang of the handsaw a little bit better, so those went a little bit quicker. My ends look a little bit neater on these ones as well. I'm still gonna take a little bit of sandpaper to the ends just to clean them up a little because they're a bit rough. Now I just want to measure how long I want this to be. So this is the door that I'm going to be hanging it on. So I'm just going to take my tape measure and see how far I want these to hang down. So I'm going to be using an S hook to hang this from. So that's going to hook over the back of the door and then hang down a little bit. So this isn't going to start right at the top of the door. It's going to be down a bit. I probably want it to come down to about this bottom pane of glass. So I'm looking about 4.5 to 5 feet long. I'm going to cut my hemp rope down to be a little bit longer than that, and I want it to be doubled too because my thought is I will fold it in half and tie a knot at the top, leaving a loop, and then that's what I can hang it from. And then I'm going to need a little bit extra to tie on to the bamboo as well, and then it's also going to go outwards too, so that's going to add a little bit of length. Alright, so I've got my ends sanded down. The first couple of cuts were a little bit rough, so they still don't look great, but they are at least smooth enough that I won't get a splinter from them. And nobody's going to be looking at it that closely anyways, so I'm not overly concerned about how that looks. I've cut down about 14 feet of my hemp string, so to start off with I'm just going to fold the string in half. Make sure it's relatively even. And then I'm just going to tie a knot at the top. And I'm just going to leave a little bit of a loop just so that I can string that over my S hook. And then I think I want to space all of my bamboo pieces about 9 inches apart. That number is somewhat arbitrary. You can do that longer or shorter if you like. I just want to have my final piece be about 5 feet long, and I want enough space in between them that I can hang relatively long ornaments off of it. So I'm just going to measure out 9 inches from my knot at the top. From that point, I'm going to tie it onto my smallest piece. So this is the 5-inch one. And I'm going to tie the knots at about a 1/2 inch in from the edge. And this might take a little bit of adjustment just to get it the right length. Then you want to make sure that both of your knots are on the same side, because that will be the back, so that will be facing the door and you won't see that side. So this is where we want to staple into. I tested out the staple gun, but unfortunately the staples were too long and it didn't go all the way in, and it kind of cracked the bamboo a bit. I think that would probably work better if you're using dowels, but I think the bamboo is a little too fragile. So I'm switching it up and using a glue gun instead. So I'm not sure how well you can actually see this. I'll give you a close-up in a second. But I ended up having to switch up my plan a little bit. I had grabbed an S-hook, intending to hook this over the back of the door, but the door is a lot wider than I had anticipated, so this didn't fit. I happen to have a command hook though, so I've got that just stuck to the top of the door. It can hold a decent amount of weight. So I think that should be okay. Again, none of my ornaments are super heavy, and any of the heavier ones I think I'll just not use this year. So far the glue gun I think is going to work pretty well. It's not bad in terms of symmetry, but I think the bottom, the one side is a little higher than the other, and I think that's partly just because the bamboo is a little bit crooked. So I had tried to kind of peel it off and the glue was sticking too well. It was not coming off very easily, so I decided to just leave it. I don't think it's going to be a major issue. It ended up being slightly shorter than I was thinking, but if I'm hanging ornaments on the bottom one, they are going to hang down a little bit lower, so it's probably not a bad thing that it is a little bit shorter than I had anticipated. So I'm going to give this thing a little bit of time to dry just to make sure that the glue is totally set. And then I'm going to come back another day and decorate it, and I will show you the final thing. So I did end up evening out the bottom piece. It was just a little too crooked that it was bothering me. So I managed to peel off the glue and adjust it and then re-glue it. So it's all good now. I will say that the glue was quite difficult to take off. So I think the hot glue is a good option to hold this together. I realize that it's kind of difficult to see on the door, but you'll be able to see it a little clearer once I have the ornaments on it. So I have some ornaments that already had the wire hooks on them. A lot of mine did have strings rather than hooks. So I had a bunch of extra hooks, so I have added those to the ones that have strings. So everything should be good to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and decorate this, and then I will show you the final product. So that is it for our alternative Christmas tree project. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like down below. And please leave me a comment if you're going to try this out for yourself. Let me know how it goes. This is a fantastic option if you don't have a lot of space but still want to display all of your Christmas ornaments. And it also works really well if you don't have much room for storage either, because it is held together with string. All you have to do is bundle it up at the end of the season and it takes up almost no space. But that is it for this video, so I will just wrap up by saying thank you so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.